Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and finally getting my video edited and uploaded for this week's Color Throwdown Challenge. So the second I saw these colors, I already had kind of an idea in my mind, and it was a green, blue, and then two different shades of brown. So I pulled out the brand new, this is the My Favorite Things Friends Forever stamp set that is super cute. So I had this scrap of Nina Solar White 100-pound cardstock, or 110-pound, and I'm stamping the images I wanted to use with My Favorite Things Black Licorice Hybrid ink. I stamped the teddy bear here twice because I stamped the first one too close to the edge and I'm planning on die cutting it, and there's that little bit of a border. So I stamped it a second time, and then I stamped the little individual puppy. And then I'm going to use my Copic markers to color these in. I've super sped up the coloring process. I kept the coloring pretty simple. I will have a image on my blog. I listed all of the colors I used in the order that I used them. So, like I said, really simple coloring. I have my little sticky note here. But for the teddy bear, I started with E29, and then I went in with E27, and then E25, E23, and then finally I used E21 to kind of blend everything together. Just working from darkest to lightest. Back in the day when I first started coloring with Copics, I used to do lightest to darkest, and then you go back again from darkest to lightest to really blend everything together. And then I just found over the years that I prefer just going from darkest to lightest because it's just simpler that way. But if you are struggling with colors or you find you're applying them too dark, I would recommend going lightest to darkest because it's a little bit easier to only add in a little bit of the dark colors because obviously you can't take away. So it just kind of depends on personal preference. I do find that I color quite heavy and most of my images are fairly dark. So it is something I need to go back and practice again, is working from lightest to darkest, because then you get a little bit more control, I guess. So I just showed the little main images here, the little hugging ones, and the individual bear and the individual dog, I colored the exact same way. So I didn't feel the need to share that. So I die cut them. And then I die cut some more white cardstock, the Nina Solar White again, using the single stitch line rounded rectangle frames dynamics. And I wanted the inside piece as well. So I'm just using my honeycomb dot adhesive, which is a repositionable adhesive. And I'm just adhering it down to some grid line paper here because I want to keep it all in place so I could sponge it at the same time. And then I pulled out these blending brushes, the ink duster blending brushes that I showed in a haul video recently. These are similar to the clarity brushes. I don't know how similar because I don't have the clarity ones. Down the road I will get those as well just to compare. But I thought I would experiment with these because I've not used them. I will say it's a little bit more work using them with my little mini Distress Ink cubes because I don't have the full-size Distress Ink pads. For me personally, I actually think down the road I will get the full-size ones just because I think it'll make my life a little more convenient. But they do work. And they definitely give a softer blend. I do like them for like blending out the color because with the sponges you do have to work a little bit harder to get, that soft transition. However, with this specific little scene I'm creating, I didn't want a perfectly smooth blend. I kind of wanted the texture and whatnot, especially with the top one. I didn't use the brush with the top color. This is Stormy Sky. I kind of liked how it was looking, the little edges I was getting from the blending tool, because I was kind of thinking, clouds and whatnot. So I left that as is. So they do definitely take some more time for me to really play with them and experiment with them, but I like them so far anyway. And I do like that they're double-ended, so you'll get twice as many. People have been asking me about storage. I'm probably just going to stick them in a drawer on my desk. That's what my plan is anyway. So it works. And then I used them again a second time, the same bundled sage color on, I die cut the word hugs from the same white cardstock. And I left one of them inside the scrap paper just so I had something to hold. And then I just used the blending brush to pull the color up from the bottom. I wanted it soft. I didn't want it sponge the color as dark as basically what's going to be the ground of my card here, because I wanted it to pop out a little bit more. So I just lightly brushed on the color with that, and I like how that worked. So I did that, and then I had die cut the word 3 times so that I could stack all these together to get some dimensions. So I pulled out my Ranger Multi-Medium Matte Adhesive and just started applying that to each die cut so I could stack all 3 together Really simple. I could have used my Tombow Monomulti for this word as well. I did that in a previous video because when they're not as finely detailed, I don't have to worry so much about the adhesive squeezing out. That is why I prefer the multi-medium matte adhesive, because if it does squeeze out at all, it dries perfectly matte. It's not sticky. I have had people comment about, you know, with the Tombow Monomulti, if it does squeeze out, you know, you add a little bit of the anti-static powder tool. That's fine in a pinch, but it still leaves that gummy little bit of residue. So I would rather just avoid it, because it's not just about physically feeling it sticky. Is you can see it is the problem. That's why I like the multimedia matte, because it dries completely matte. It's very hard to see if it does ooze out at all. So I stacked the hugs 3 times, and then I'd done the same thing with the frame. I had die cut it 3 times as well, so that I could pop it up. I wanted to sponge it all together with the base part so that they have the similar look, but then I stacked it up so it's popped up just to give it that little extra bit of dimension. So once I was done stacking everything, I pulled off the background there and then relined it up on my grid paper so it's straight, because I want to stamp a sentiment. And I use my grid lines as like a visual guide when I'm stamping. And then I'm just inking up a sentiment from that same Friends Forever set. And I only inked up the first part of it, just the I miss your. So I inked that up with the same Black Licorice Hybrid ink, and then stamped that onto the background. And then while I was looking at this, I was like, oh, it needs still a little something over it. So I grabbed my little Cloud 9 Dynamics and ran that through with the white cardstock, and then laid those out on my background. And then I'm going to adhere those into place with my Tombow Monomulti, letting the edges hang off because I'll deal with that in a minute. So just got those kind of adhered, figured out how I wanted them to look on my background. And then for the little hugging creatures here, my little teddy bear and puppy, I was going to adhere them flat to the card, but once I got my word die in place, and this one I did use the Tombow Monomulti since it was there and handy. So got that adhered, and then I decided I was going to adhere these guys flat, but then decided to pop them up with some foam tape just to kind of give them a little bit of added dimension as well. So applied a bunch of pieces of foam tape that I just tore down to fit the space, peeled off the backing, and then I can pop those onto my little background here. And then this time I can pull up the background completely, flip it over, and then all the parts of the clouds that are hanging over, I'm just going to trim those off with my scissors. So get all that trimmed off, that way the frame is going to be able to go right back over it when I adhere this to my card base. And my card base is more heavyweight white cardstock that I'd cut to 4 1/4 by 11, and I'm going to score it up 5 1/2 with my Teflon bone folder. And then I always fold it over and use the flat end of the bone folder to really press down that crease so that the card closes nicely. So got that made, and then I'm going to adhere the background flat to the card, just again with more Tombow Monomulti. I love using it for something like this because it gives me those few seconds of wiggle room to make sure I've got things lined up. People have been asking me again lately as well with this adhesive, like, does it show through cardstock? Because some liquid adhesives do. Some liquid adhesives, when you flip over the other side, you can actually see the adhesive because it just soaks right into the cardstock. This doesn't, for one. That's another reason why I love it and recommend it. And 2, if you're having that problem, even with this adhesive, you're probably using really thin cardstock, so lightweight. I use heavyweight cardstock always. I use, the 110-pound Nina, and then I use, Simon Says Stamp color cardstock, My Favorite Things color cardstock, like good quality heavyweight cardstock. One, they just look better, they stand up nicer, the color is great, and you don't see the adhesive. That's huge. It makes such a big difference. So I did all that, and then I adhered the frame there, so got that into place. And then on the inside, this is where I'm going to use those 2 other little images that I had stamped and colored. So I lined those up how I wanted them to look on the inside of the card, and then I stamped another sentiment from the Friends Forever set. And then I'm going to adhere my little characters with the Tombow Monomulti, and that finished off this card. So I will have links below the video to my blog post with all the pictures of the Copic colors I used, the Color Throwdown Challenge info if you're interested. So check that out below if you want any more info. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, thumbs upping, and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.